The galaxy was full of legends. Among them, one name struck fear into every heart: Vorak the Unbeaten. He was called the strongest being alive. His fists had destroyed warships. His roar had silenced armies. No one dared to challenge him. The day of the Great Arena Championship, the galaxy gathered to watch Vorak defend his title again. The arena was massive, a shimmering dome above a cracked, rocky floor. Billions of spectators from thousands of planets cheered his name. Vorak stood at the center of the arena, towering and confident. His thick, gray skin glistened with scars that told countless stories of battle. His yellow eyes glowed with arrogance as he raised his fists and roared, "Who dares face me today?" He thundered. The crowd roared back. They were sure no one would defeat him. No one could, but then a small group of humans walked into the arena. The crowd fell silent for a moment, confused. Humans? Weak, soft creatures from the blue planet called Earth? What were they doing here? The human general, wearing a dark uniform with a single silver star, walked forward calmly. His eyes met Vorak's without fear. Behind him, soldiers wheeled in a large metal crate on thick wheels. Vorak squinted at it and laughed loudly. "What is this? Is that your weapon? A box?" The crowd joined in his laughter. The general stopped a few feet away and looked up at the giant. "Inside this crate," he said, his voice calm but cold, "is Earth's champion." Vorak threw back his head and laughed again. "You brought a pet to fight me? This will be fun." A low growl came from inside the crate. The sound silenced the arena. It wasn't the growl of an animal. It was something deeper, something ancient. The general gave a small nod. Two soldiers unlocked the crate. Steam hissed out as the door swung open. From the darkness, a figure stepped out. It was massive, taller than any human, though still smaller than Vorak. Its skin was pale and marked with deep scars. Muscles rippled under its torn uniform. Its eyes glowed faint red, and a heavy collar sat around its neck, attached to thick chains that the soldiers still held. For the first time, Vorak stopped smiling. "What is that?" he asked, his voice suddenly unsure. The general answered softly, "We call it Project Fenrir." Fenrir stood still, his head slightly lowered, staring at Vorak with unblinking eyes. His breath came slow and steady, but every exhale sounded like a storm waiting to break. The Galactic Council's announcer floated into the arena. "Rules of the match," he called out nervously. "No weapons, no machines, strength only. Begin." When ready, Vorak clenched his fists and grinned again. "Fine," he growled. "I'll crush this human beast with my bare hands." The general gave a signal. The soldiers released the chains, and they clattered to the ground. Fenrir raised his head, his glowing eyes locked onto Vorak, and then he smiled. Vorak roared and charged first. His punch hit Fenrir square in the chest with enough force to break steel. Fenrir didn't move, not even a step. The crowd gasped. Vorak pulled back, shocked. "Impossible!" Fenrir tilted his head, still smiling faintly. Then, with a sudden movement, he raised his own fist and swung. One punch. Vorak flew across the arena and smashed into the far wall with a thunderous crash. Dust and stone rained down as the crowd screamed in disbelief. Vorak stood up slowly, wiping blood from his mouth. His arrogant grin was gone. His eyes were wide now, full of confusion and something that looked like fear. This is a trick," he spat. But Fenrir began walking toward him, each step echoing through the arena. Vorak lunged again, his massive arms swinging wildly. He struck Fenrir again and again, blows strong enough to shatter mountains, but Fenrir barely flinched. Instead, Fenrir moved faster, too fast. He ducked, twisted, and countered with strikes that cracked the floor under Vorak's feet. Each punch sank deeper. Each roar from Vorak sounded more like pain than rage, The crowd sat in stunned silence. Vorak backed away, his breathing heavy now. "What are you?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Fenrir's faint smile grew wider. "Human," he said, his voice low but clear. Vorak's legs faltered. He glanced at the council members watching from their golden seats. But no one moved. No one spoke. They were all staring at the monster from Earth. Fenrir's hands closed around Vorak's shoulders. With one final roar, he lifted the galaxy's strongest and slammed him into the ground so hard the arena floor split. Vorak lay still, broken and beaten, his yellow eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Fenrir stood over him, breathing slowly, his red eyes glowing brighter now. The human general stepped forward and raised a hand. "That's enough. Fenrir," he said simply. Fenrir paused, then straightened and stepped back, still watching Vorak like a predator eyeing its prey. The announcer's voice cracked as he spoke. "Whoa, winner, humanity's champion." No one cheered. No one laughed. Silence filled the arena. The general's voice carried across the space as he looked at the council. "This was not just a fight," he said. "This was a warning." He turned and began walking away, his soldiers falling into step behind him. Fenrir followed, still staring at the crowd with his faint, unsettling smile. As they reached the exit, a faint murmur rose in the stands. Whispers carried from one corner to another. "What else are the humans hiding?" Someone muttered. The story of Fenrir spread like wildfire across the galaxy. In every corner, on every planet, people now spoke of Earth's monster, the one who defeated the galaxy's strongest. No one dared laugh at humans again. The galaxy would remember this day for thousands of years. And on Earth, under the quiet stars, Project Fenrir sat once more in his crate, waiting for the next time humanity needed to remind the stars who they really were. The galaxy's greatest arena had never been so quiet. Billions of beings from every corner of the stars watched as the humans wheeled a massive metal crate into the center of the shimmering, cracked floor. The crate was ugly, made of thick steel, blackened from heat, covered in strange markings and scars, like it had already survived a war. Heavy chains looped around it, rattling with every bump of the wheels. Vorak the Unbeaten stood there, towering over everyone, his arms crossed and his lips twisted into a mocking grin. "This," he sneered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "is what humanity brings to face me." A box? Laughter erupted from the crowd. Even the council members seated above the arena smiled faintly. The human general, calm as stone, simply stopped a few paces from Vorak and rested a gloved hand on the crate. "Inside," the general said softly, his voice carrying across the arena, "is something you've never seen." Vorak leaned forward and tapped the crate with one thick finger. "Is it a weapon? A toy? Or maybe it's just another weak little human?" The general's eyes didn't move. "Would you like to find out?" Vorak threw his head back and roared with laughter. "Fine, let's open it and see your pet." But just as he finished speaking, something inside the crate moved. A low, deep sound rose from within, a growl, but not like an animal. It was something heavier, older, full of hunger and rage. The crowd fell silent again. The sound vibrated through the floor, through their chests. Even Vorak's grin faltered slightly. One of the humans at the crate's side swallowed hard and glanced at the general. "Sir." The general gave a tiny nod. The soldiers moved quickly, unlocking the chains and stepping back. Steam hissed out as the crate groaned and creaked. Something inside struck the walls hard enough to dent the steel. Voice, quiet but firm, came from the general. "Control yourself, Fenrir." The growling stopped, the crate opened, and from the shadows within, a massive figure stepped out. It was not quite human anymore. Its skin was pale and stretched tight over muscle and bone, scarred and marked as though it had been burned, cut, and stitched back together countless times. Chains still hung from its wrists and ankles, clinking as it moved. Its eyes glowed faintly red, unblinking and fixed on Vorak. Vorak took a step back before he realized it. "What?" he began, his voice quieter now. "What is that?" The general's answer was simple. Project Fenrir. Fenrir didn't speak. He simply stood, breathing slow and deep. The air around him felt heavier now, as if the whole arena had shrunk into this one terrible moment. Vorak forced a laugh, though his eyes didn't leave Fenrir's. "It doesn't matter what it is. I'll still crush it like all the others." "But—" Then Fenrir smiled. It wasn't warm. It wasn't kind. It was the smile of something that knew exactly what it was and what it was about to do. The announcer's voice trembled as he floated down to the center of the arena. "By the council's decree, no weapons, no machines. Strength alone decides the victor. Begin when ready." Vorak squared his massive shoulders and roared, more to convince himself than anyone else. "Come then, little monster. Show me your strength." But Fenrir didn't move, not at first. He simply stared, his glowing eyes unblinking. Then, as though deciding something, he straightened. His chains clinked as he stepped forward, each movement deliberate and heavy. Vorak struck. First, his fist came down like a meteor, aimed to crush Fenrir instantly. The air boomed from the force, but Fenrir caught it with one hand. The crowd gasped as Vorak's arm stopped cold in midair. Fenrir's head tilted slightly, his faint smile still in place. Vorak snarled and swung his other fist, then kicked, then spun. But nothing worked. Every strike was blocked, dodged, or simply ignored. And then it was Fenrir's turn. He moved suddenly, impossibly fast for something his size. His fist drove into Vorak's chest, sending the giant stumbling backward. Vorak's eyes widened in shock. No one had ever pushed him back before. The crowd fell into stunned silence as Fenrir advanced. He struck again. And again. Each blow shattered the ground, echoed through the arena, and left cracks in the walls. Vorak's armor broke. His skin split. Blood sprayed. He roared in fury, but the sound cracked into something else. "Fear. Stay down," the general called calmly from the edge of the arena. But Vorak refused. He staggered up, trembling, his yellow eyes full of confusion and rage. "What are you?" he shouted hoarsely. For the first time, Fenrir spoke. His voice was low and hollow. "Human." The words seemed to echo, sending shivers through the entire arena. Vorak lunged one last time, roaring louder than ever. But Fenrir met him halfway. His fist crashed into Vorak's jaw, lifting the giant off his feet. The ground split wide as Vorak slammed back down, motionless, defeated. The announcer floated forward again, voice shaking. "Winner, Earth's champion." But still, no cheers came. The silence was heavier than any roar. Fenrir straightened, his chains dragging behind him, and turned to the general. The general nodded once. "That's enough." Fenrir stepped back into the shadows of the crate without another word. The humans began locking the chains again as the general spoke loudly enough for the council and the entire galaxy to hear. "This was not a demonstration of strength," he said. "This was a demonstration of restraint. Remember that." The soldiers pushed the crate slowly out of the arena, its occupant quiet but watching. The crowd only began breathing again. When the humans were gone, whispers rippled through the stands. "If that is what humans keep in a box," one alien muttered, "what else are they hiding?" That question would haunt the galaxy for years to come. And in the dark of the crate, Fenrir smiled faintly to himself, already waiting for the next time they would open the door. The arena floor was cracked and scarred from countless fights, but today it felt different. The air was heavy, as though the stones themselves held their breath. Vorak stood in the center, fists clenched, glaring at the human general. Behind the human stood Fenrir, the pale, chained giant who had just stepped out of his crate and silenced the entire galaxy. The crowd still couldn't believe what they were seeing. The strongest being in the galaxy was facing off against something. Humanity kept locked in a box. Hovering above them, the council's announcer cleared his throat nervously. His voice cracked as he spoke. By order of the Galactic Council, he began, this match will follow the ancient rules. No weapons, no armor enhancements, no machines. Strength alone will decide the victor. Vorak smirked, though sweat glistened on his forehead now. Fine by me, he growled. I don't need anything to crush this thing of yours. The human general only gave a slight nod. The announcer continued, his mechanical wings twitching nervously. The match ends when one combatant yields or is unable to continue. No killing, unless authorized. Vorak chuckled at that. Oh, don't worry, he said with a sneer, glancing at Fenrir. It won't take much to break your toy. The general finally spoke, his voice calm but cold. Be careful what you wish for. The chains around Fenrir's wrists rattled as the human soldiers removed the final locks. The crowd gasped as the metal fell to the ground, and Fenrir stretched his hands slowly, as if waking from a long sleep. Vorak snorted and pounded his chest with both fists. Come then. Show me what Earth calls strength. Fenrir didn't move. Not. Yet he simply stood, head tilted slightly, watching Vorak with those faintly glowing red eyes. His breathing was slow, deliberate, the only sound in the silence. Vorak roared and charged, the arena floor cracking under his feet. His first punch came down like a falling star, aimed at Fenrir's head. But Fenrir sidestepped easily, his movements smooth and terrifyingly calm. The punch smashed into the ground, sending shards of rock flying. Vorak snarled and swung again, faster this time. But again, Fenrir moved. The audience watched in stunned silence as Vorak unleashed a storm of strikes, each one strong enough to shatter walls, but none of them landed. Fenrir's chains clinked softly as he moved around the arena, always one step ahead, his faint smile never leaving his face. Vorak finally stopped, panting, glaring at the pale giant. Stand still and fight me, he barked. The human general's voice carried across the arena. Patience, he called calmly. Fenrir's head tilted again, and then he moved. It happened so fast that even the council's high-speed cameras struggled to follow. One strike, Vorak's massive body flew backward, crashing into the wall hard. Enough to crack it. The crowd gasped as dust and stone rained down. Vorak got back to his feet slowly, his face full of disbelief. No, he muttered, that's impossible. But Fenrir was already walking toward him, silent and relentless. Vorak swung again, roaring in rage. This time, Fenrir caught his wrist mid-swing and squeezed. The sound of bones cracking echoed through the arena. Vorak dropped to one knee, eyes wide in pain. Fenrir leaned in close, his red eyes boring into Vorak's. Yield, he said softly. But Vorak, stubborn and proud, roared and lashed out with his other fist. Fenrir ducked, twisted, and slammed his palm into Vorak's chest. The impact threw the giant across the arena once more, leaving a deep crater in the floor where he landed. The announcer's voice trembled. Do you yield? But Vorak, bloody and shaking, still tried to stand. His eyes burned with defiance, but also fear now. Fenrir walked toward him again, slow and steady, each step heavier than the last. The human general raised his hand. That's enough, he called. Fenrir stopped, just a few steps away from Vorak, and straightened. The pale giant turned his head, staring at the council above, his faint smile still there. The announcer hovered lower, his voice barely a whisper now. Victor, Earth's champion. No one cheered. No one spoke. The rules of battle had been followed. And humanity's monster had shown the galaxy what those rules really meant. As Fenrir let himself be chained again, Vorak remained kneeling on the ground, staring at his own trembling hands. For the first time in his life, the galaxy's strongest understood what it meant to be afraid. And somewhere in the crowd, a whisper rose, quiet but clear. If that's just one of them, what else are the humans hiding? The air inside the arena felt alive now, charged with something dangerous. The spectators leaned forward in their seats, barely breathing, their eyes locked on the two figures at the center of the cracked stone floor. Vorak's massive frame loomed. Above Fenrir, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles split. His gray skin glistened with sweat, and though he still wore a crooked grin, his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. Fenrir stood still, pale and silent. His faint red eyes never blinked, never wavered. His hands hung loosely at his sides, but his presence filled the entire arena. Heavier than any weapon, the council's announcer floated down and spoke softly, though everyone could hear him. "You may begin." The words barely left his mouth before Vorak moved. He didn't walk, he launched. His first strike came down like the hammer of a god, aimed directly at Fenrir's head. The impact shook the ground, the sound of it echoing like thunder. Stone cracked and dust rose in a cloud around them. The crowd gasped, many rising to their feet to see through the haze. When the dust settled, Fenrir was still standing. Vorak's massive fist rested against his forehead, and had done nothing. Fenrir's red eyes glowed faintly brighter, and his faint smile grew just a little wider. Vorak's grin faltered. "Impossible," he muttered. But he didn't stop. He roared and swung again, faster, harder. Each punch shook the arena walls. The air whistled with every blow as he threw everything he had at the silent creature before him. But Fenrir simply stepped aside, leaned back, ducked, always just enough to let the strikes miss. Always calm, always watching. The human general stood at the edge of the arena, hands clasped behind his back, his face still expressionless. Vorak's strikes grew more desperate. His feet tore trenches in the stone as he charged, trying again and again. "Fight me!" he shouted, voice cracking with rage and something else, fear. Fenrir tilted his head slightly. And then he moved. The first strike from Fenrir came so fast the crowd didn't see it, only heard the sound of flesh and bone colliding, followed by Vorak's massive body flying backward. He hit the ground hard, sliding across the arena floor and leaving a trail of dust and blood. For the first time in his life, Vorak had been struck down. The crowd fell silent. Even the council members sat motionless in their golden seats. Vorak groaned, struggling to rise. His hands dug into the cracked stone as he pushed himself up, his breathing heavy and uneven. Fenrir didn't move. He simply stood there, his eyes fixed on Vorak, his faint smile unwavering. Vorak snarled, spitting blood. "You got lucky." He roared and charged again, swinging with all his strength. Fenrir caught the punch in midair. The sound of bones cracking carried through the arena as Vorak's face twisted in pain. Fenrir twisted his arm and threw him over his shoulder like he weighed nothing. Vorak slammed into the ground face first, the impact shaking the entire arena. Still, he rose, bloody, trembling, but still standing. He staggered toward Fenrir, his legs unsteady. "I am Vorak," he gasped. "I am the strongest." Fenrir finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "Not anymore." Vorak froze. Then, with terrifying calm, Fenrir stepped forward and drove his fist into Vorak's chest. The sound of it echoed like an explosion. Vorak's eyes widened as he stumbled back, clutching his chest, gasping for air. He fell to his knees, staring up at Fenrir in disbelief. The announcer's voice trembled as he floated closer. "Did you yield?" Vorak's lips curled into a weak snarl, but no sound came. Fenrir took one more step forward, towering over him now. "Yield," Fenrir said simply. Vorak's head dropped. His fists opened. He stayed on his knees, defeated. The announcer's voice broke through the silence. "Victor, Earth's champion." No one cheered. No one moved. The crowd stared at the pale creature from Earth, their minds reeling from what they had just witnessed. Fenrir stepped back, his red eyes sweeping over the audience, his faint smile returning. The human general raised his hand. "That's enough," he said quietly. Fenrir turned and began walking back toward the crate, his chains dragging softly across the floor. Vorak collapsed completely, lying on the ground, staring blankly at the ceiling. For the first time he understood what it meant to feel powerless. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it meant to fear humans. As the soldiers locked Fenrir back into the crate and began to wheel it away, whispers rose among the crowd. "If that's their weapon." Someone whispered, "What kind of monsters are they?" The human general paused at the edge of the arena, glancing back at the silent crowd. "This was just the first strike," he said, his voice carrying easily across the vast space. Then he turned and walked away, the crate creaking behind him. In the silence that followed, the galaxy realized something terrible. Humans had been holding back, and whatever else they had locked away was worse. The arena was still trembling from the first strike. Dust floated in the air, catching the dim light as the crowd sat frozen in disbelief. Vorak, the strongest in the galaxy, was hurt, beaten, and all because of one human so-called monster. Fenrir stood in the center, silent but alive with terrible power. His pale skin seemed to glow faintly in the strange arena light. His red eyes, bright and cold, never left Vorak. The giant warrior from Earth did not rush forward again. Instead, he moved with slow, steady steps like a shadow creeping closer to its prey. Vorak wiped blood from his cracked lips and narrowed his eyes. "What are you? Where did you come from?" Fenrir said nothing. He didn't need to. His presence told everything. Vorak charged again, furious. He swung with all his might, but this time Fenrir was ready. He dodged, blocked, and countered with blows that sent shockwaves through the arena floor. Every punch from Fenrir hit harder than the last. The ground cracked beneath them. Rocks exploded into dust. The air was thick with the sound of battle, heavy, loud, and relentless. The crowd watched, breathless. This was no ordinary fight. It was a storm. Vorak stumbled back, his armor breaking under the assault. Blood streamed down his face, mixing with sweat. "You cannot beat me," Vorak shouted, voice cracking with desperation. Fenrir's faint smile stayed, calm and cold. "Watch me," he said simply. Suddenly Fenrir's speed grew beyond belief. He was everywhere at once, striking, dodging, moving too fast for anyone to follow. Vorak swung wildly, missing more and more. Each failed strike left him weaker. Fenrir's fists rained down again and again, pounding Vorak's chest, arms, and legs. With a final blow, Fenrir slammed his fist into Vorak's armor, breaking it wide open. The giant's skin split beneath, and he screamed in pain. The crowd gasped as Vorak fell to one knee, shaking and bleeding. Fenrir stepped closer, towering over the fallen warrior. Vorak looked up, eyes filled with a mixture of rage and fear. "What are you?" he whispered, voice barely audible. Fenrir's red eyes burned brighter as he answered, voice steady and strong. "Human." Vorak's face twisted in disbelief. "No, humans are weak." Fenrir's smile deepened, cruel, knowing, unstoppable. "You don't know humans," Fenrir said. "You never did." The giant tried to rise, but his strength was gone. The crowd was silent except for the heavy breathing of the two fighters. Then, from the edge of the arena, the human general stepped forward, his voice clear and commanding. "That's enough." Fenrir stopped, turned, and walked back slowly, his chains dragging on the cracked floor. Vorak collapsed fully, his massive form trembling as he lay broken on the ground. The crowd sat in stunned silence. No one cheered. No one moved. They only whispered, "What kind of power does Earth hold? Are humans the true monsters?" The question hung heavy in the air. Somewhere deep inside Fenrir's mind, a faint warning flickered. This was only the beginning. The beast was unleashed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The defeat of Vorak echoed through the galaxy like thunder. Once the strongest warrior alive, Vorak now lay broken, defeated by a human monster called Fenrir. News spread fast across planets and star systems. For centuries, no one had dared challenge Vorak. He was the symbol of power, the strongest in every battle. But now, fear replaced respect. Alien leaders whispered in secret meetings. They asked questions they never thought they'd ask. What if humans are not weak? What if this Fenrir is only the start? In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, tension grew thick like a storm before a terrible rain. Council members stared at the video of the fight again and again, unable to look away. "How can this be?" one elder said. "We thought humans were primitive, slow, but Fenrir is different, something else." A younger member shook her head. "It's more than strength. Fenrir moved with a skill we have never seen." Outside on many planets, soldiers prepared for war. They feared humans more than any enemy before. In the crowded market of a distant star city, an alien vendor spoke in hushed tones to a traveler. "They laughed at Earth for so long," he said. "But now we tremble when we say their name." Meanwhile, on Earth, the human general sat quietly in a room filled with screens showing the galaxy's reaction. "Fenrir changed everything," he said softly. A young soldier approached. "Sir, the council is calling for more information about Project Fenrir." The general nodded. "They will get answers, but only when we are ready." Fenrir sat in his crate, still and silent. His red eyes flickered, watching the stars beyond the window. For the first time, he sensed something new. Fear. Not his own. The fear in the galaxy. The fear of humans. And that fear was only growing. The arena had fallen silent. Vorak, the galaxy's strongest, was broken and beaten. His mighty roar was now only a weak whisper. Fenrir stood tall, his pale skin glowing faintly in the dim light. His red eyes scanned the crowd, calm and steady. Human General stepped forward and raised his hand. "That's enough," he said clearly. The soldiers quickly moved to chain Fenrir again. The heavy metal links clanged as they locked around his wrists and ankles. Fenrir didn't struggle. He only looked once more at the defeated Vorak before stepping back toward his crate. The crowd, still in shock, waited for the final word. The general turned to face the Galactic Council seated high above. "This was not just a fight," he said in a firm voice. "It was a warning." Whispers swept through the audience like wildfire. A council elder asked quietly, "A warning? From whom?" "From Earth?" The general nodded. "Earth is no longer a planet to be ignored or laughed at." The message was clear. Humans had power beyond belief, and they were ready to use it. As the crate was wheeled away, Fenrir's faint smile returned, cold and knowing. The galaxy would remember this day for centuries, not because the strongest fell. But because a new power had risen. Earth's monster had been unleashed, and the stars themselves trembled in fear. The galaxy was no longer the same. News of Fenrir's victory spread like wildfire, from the smallest mining moon to the grandest capital planet. Alien leaders met in secret, their faces grim. No one had expected Earth to hide such power. No one believed humans could create a monster like Fenrir, but now everyone feared what Earth might do next. In a quiet room on Earth, the human general watched the stars through a large window. He spoke softly to Fenrir, who stood beside him. "The galaxy is waking up," he said. "They will come for us." Fenrir's red eyes gleamed. "Let them come," he replied. "We will be ready." Outside, the stars twinkled cold and distant. But on Earth, a new storm was rising. A storm that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. And no one, not Vorak, not the Council, not the countless alien worlds, would forget the day Earth released its monster.